Well, it has been a little while, and that is an understatement to say the least, but it is March, and I'm going to try my best to be here throughout the tournament because, as you know, there's just a little college basketball action this month. So, hi everyone, Al DeMarco here, and General Manager, DeMarcoSports.com, in case you forgot. And this is going to be your Tuesday, March 5th video report. I've got a couple of complimentary plays in college hoops coming your way. I hope that you've been checking out the website since I haven't been doing videos here of late. I won a perfect 6-0 with the complimentary plays Saturday and Sunday combined. FYI, just to give you an explanation of where I've been, I got to be honest with you, the chemo just wore me out. I thought football wore me out, but everything else combined, it just wore me out. Had my final treatment last Thursday, and my arms are very grateful not to be pincushions anymore. But the other thing that happened is that my wife had some wonky test results, and one of her doctors a couple weeks ago. So when she came home and told me that she had to go and see an oncologist, well, that, needless to say, shook my whole world up. I joke about my wife all the time, joke about her, as you know, here on the video reports, that she's a gambling degenerate. And I know I joke about that, but she is, of course. Addicted to video poker and slot machines. She won't take my bets, my action, but she is addicted to those. But, anybody that can put up with me is a saint. And after losing her father to esophageal cancer, her mother to MS, and her sister at a young age to a very rare sarcoma, God, I could have said the name if I didn't say it, that word, but I can't remember it. And having to deal with me, who's going to die. And listen, as I said before, I'm fine with dying. I've accepted the fact it's going to get me. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it's going to in the next few years. But, Jesus, having to go through that with her. And thankfully, everything after, the three going through all the tests and visiting the oncologists and everything thankfully turned out for her well. And I've always said, I've never asked why I got this stupid disease, but I've always said, thankfully, it's me and not my wife, my son, or my daughter-in-law, and that's all that matters. So with that being said, I now have a clear mind, and I can do some basketball stuff. So let's get to some complimentary plays here. And I hope you guys have been doing well. Listen, the one thing I just want to say to you, as we've gotten some of the minor league tournaments getting underway today, I realize a lot of you watch these videos and you handicap yourselves. If you have never paid attention to the Patriot League, for example, or the Sun Belt Conference, for example, and suddenly you find yourself looking at those conferences because they have multiple games on days like today, skip them. If you haven't delved into those conferences for the past 3 months, if you haven't followed any of those teams, skip them. Yes, I know every single game is a 50-50 betting proposition, but I'm telling you, if you haven't followed any of those teams, skip them. You're not going to become an expert overnight. Consequently, you will never find me having a play on probably the Summit League, the Patriot League, I guarantee you. Very few plays on some of the minor league conferences because I haven't paid attention to any of those teams for the last 4 months, and I do this for a living. So why do you think you would be able to win? I think that's one of the biggest mistakes gamblers make at this time of year when college conference tournaments get underway. They suddenly jump into conferences that they have no familiarity with. Same thing happens when we get to the opening rounds of the dance, and I'll talk more about that when the tournament field is set. Guys suddenly start betting games that they have no clue about those teams from the Missouri Valley, the Southland, even the West Coast Conference. Teams that they haven't watched all season long just because they're games that they can bet. I've never understood that. Okay, let's get to some complimentary plays. I think the Florida-Alabama game was very interesting. Florida, of course, lost at South Carolina this week, but listen, Florida on the road is a different team than Florida is home. And we can say that just about every major conference team this year. Florida lost in Tuscaloosa 98-93, a game that they were playing back on February 21st, a game that they were up by 9 with 6:11 to play. And then Bama reeled off 10 straight points to take his first lead since the game was 18-17. This is a game where Florida is in quadruple revenge. They are 13-1 at home in Gainesville, 6-1 in SEC play. Of course, the only game that they lost in SEC play at home this year was the only other time they played a ranked team in their SEC opener against Kentucky. And of course, Alabama is ranked here. Now, they're only 6-8 against the spread at home, but it's a virtual pick'em game with Florida as a 1.5-point choice here. Alabama just got smoked at home on Saturday by Tennessee. Alabama, 4-point favorite in that game, lost outright by 7, but it wasn't even as close as that final score indicated. Bama just 5-4 straight up outside of Tuscaloosa this year. And I'm looking at this game, and I got to tell you, I like Florida in this spot. Alabama, a dynamite offensive team, right? Leading the nation in scoring, I think almost 91 points a game. But when it comes to defense, just doesn't play any. The Tide allowing an SEC worst 79.3 points a game. I think that's 17th worst in the nation as well among D1 teams. So I'll go for a game where Florida is the prohibitive favorite, and I think in a nip and tuck affair, Florida will pull out the victory. Another game that has major implications, Purdue is on the cusp of wrapping up the Big Ten championship here tonight, regular season title. Illinois hopes to put that off. I like the Illini minus 1.5 at home against Purdue. Now, did Purdue win the first game in West Lafayette? Absolutely. But just remember, Terrence Shannon, the leading scorer for the Illini, that was that period where he was serving that 6-game suspension. He has been playing some great ball. And listen, let's put aside all the legal difficulties he has faced and will ultimately face probably down the road. But this is a guy who is anticipated, if things are cleared up on the legal ramifications, probably will be a potential first-round draft pick. And right now, he's playing like one, averaging actually a little over 27 points over his last 6-7 games. That's a big guy not to have in your lineup. And yet Purdue barely escaped with that win in the first meeting in early January, 83-78. This game comes down to this. Can Illinois outscore Purdue? Because the Illini don't play any defense. So can Illinois and Champaign outscore Purdue? I'm banking on it. I like Illinois minus actually 2 points now. That game has escalated from 1 point this morning up to 1.5 to now 2 points as I do this video for you at about, it's 12:30 my time, 3:30 Eastern time. So I like the Illini in that particular spot. Let's see. Other games, I looked at Notre Dame plus the 15 points at North Carolina. Kind of an interesting game because the Irish are certainly playing well here, right? Coming off back-to-back home upsets of Clemson and Wake Forest. They've won 5 of their last 6, but only 2 of those games were on the road in that stretch. One against Louisville, which they won, big deal. Who doesn't beat Louisville? The other one, they lost by 3 to the Orange in Syracuse. But North Carolina is a different animal. The thing, though, you have to be concerned here is that North Carolina has the big game, the season finale at Duke on the weekend. Now, North Carolina wins tonight. They clinch at least a share of the ACC title. So you have all those dynamics in this game. And let's just talk about this for a second. So North Carolina has the obvious look-ahead situation, right? North Carolina wasn't exactly imposing in the 9-point win against NC State in its last outing. You've got Notre Dame, a team that plays at such a slow tempo. A matter of fact, according to KenPom.com, a site that I use extensively, out of 362 teams, they have a tempo rating of 336. That's how slow they play. So they're going to take the air out of the ball, which is going to reduce the number of scoring opportunities for both teams, and you've got that monster 15-point spread. You also know that Notre Dame is just awful offensively, and North Carolina is such a good team. So which way do you play it? Notre Dame to slow down the ball, to take the air out of the ball, to reduce the number of scoring chances. but they can't put the ball in the hoop. And you got a North Carolina team with one eye focused toward the big matchup with Duke. I lean toward taking the points with Notre Dame, but I also keep thinking to myself, do you want to put good money on bad teams? So I would lean toward Notre Dame in that spot. Another game that's kind of interesting. Yeah, VCU back at home, -5.5 points. A team that is 13-6 straight up at home with 6 straight wins at home against Duquesne. Now, Duquesne is 4-6 on the road, right? But the Dukes have won 4 of their last 5. You got VCU coming off a tough loss at Atlantic 10 leader Richmond, 79-76. Is it a letdown game for the Rams? I mean, if VCU was 3.5 to 4 points, I am all over the Rams tonight. I probably would have used them as my best bet. At 5.5, I kind of lean toward them a little, but that's why they were a free pick tonight, because I think this is a game which could go down right to the wire, because these two teams are mirror images of each other. They play a similar style of ball. The only thing is, you got a Duquesne team, again, that's 4-6 on the road, and a VCU team that has just been dynamite at home and has won 6 straight. But VCU is coming off the loss to its arch rival, Richmond. But, you look at the Atlantic 10 this season, right? Other than Richmond, a team that also has failed on the road on occasion, you generally play the teams at home. Think of Dayton at home, think of VCU at home, think of Richmond at home, think of St. Bonaventure at home, and you go against those teams on the road. So I lean toward VCU in that one. So the complementary plays, if I had to rank them tonight, I like Florida and Illinois. They would be the 2 plays that I like, and I like them equally. I just have an opinion on VCU, and that opinion is worth a little more than a grain of salt and $4 to get something at Starbucks than the play on Notre Dame. So there you go. And guys, I will hopefully be here tomorrow to talk to you some more. Good luck, everybody.